What is a thought leader, and how can you become one personally if that's your goal? And what does that have to do with a communication channel? You're going to find out. A thought leader is not an actual job title, first of all, and it's certainly not a way you should describe yourself. It's best to let other people call you this, and that's really the whole point. The shortest possible definition I've seen is from the book, The Thought Leader's Practice. They say a thought leader is someone who is known for knowing something. That's a concise way to think about it. But there's usually a particular brand of expertise that matters the most. So here's a more in-depth definition from the Thought Leadership Lab. Thought leaders are the informed opinion leaders and the go-to people in their field of expertise. They become the trusted sources who move and inspire people with innovative ideas, turn ideas into reality. Over time, they create a dedicated group of friends, fans, and followers to help them replicate and scale their ideas into sustainable change, not just in one company, but in an industry, niche, or across an entire ecosystem. That definition may sound intimidating to you. If you're a beginner or even somewhere in the middle, that definition may describe a place that looks a long way off from where you are currently standing. There's a lot to unpack in these words, and I want to highlight two variables for the moment. Thought leadership is usually, but not always, associated with something new, some emerging area, or at least a new or really effective way to tackle an old problem. But to make that more manageable, I want to focus on a small, unexpected word, niche. Some people pronounce that niche, but I cannot pull it off. I am not cool enough. A niche is a small and specialized portion of an industry or an area of thought. And that's good news because there are typically lots of thought leaders in just about every niche. Every subject matter, field, or industry has very small sub-communities, and that's the best place to start if you want to become a thought leader. We're going to look at 5 ways or 5 overlapping similarities that thought leaders tend to have. Every one of these 5 qualities is extremely difficult to establish, but at the end of the video, I'm going to give you one small starting place for each of these 5 areas. And you don't need all 5 of these qualities in equal measure to establish yourself as a thought leader. Even a few may do the job, but the more you have, the better. And you'll notice these 5 similarities blend together at various points. First, thought leaders have expertise. Expertise, specialized knowledge, can come from education, coaching experience, and your own teaching. But education in the form of a formal degree is not going to cut it. You don't want to be seen as a mere theoretician. Thought leaders make an impact. They do something practical with their expertise. It's the expertise you gain through your educational experiences that can position you to make a difference. Well, what if you're not making an impact based upon what you learned in school? Yes, you can still become a thought leader. As I said, it's all about your niche. For example, I'm friendly with a professional named Judy Fox. She happens to have a master's degree, but it's not in the area she's known for. Judy is an expert on LinkedIn. In other words, she has a ton of followers personally, but she's able to get those same kind of results for her LinkedIn clients. She's up to date on the latest changes on the LinkedIn platform, and she knows how to get the most out of it for other people. She got there through self-study, not a graduate program. There are no graduate programs on LinkedIn, but she's a recognized expert, and everybody who is in the LinkedIn space who's trying to make the most of it will hear about Judy Fox sooner or later. She is a thought leader, no doubt. She's on the cutting edge of helping people thrive on that platform. And on the topic of expertise, it really helps if your expertise is verified or supported by other experts. It's hard to be a lone ranger expert nowadays. And expertise is not something you should ever claim for yourself. Don't ever stretch the truth about your qualifications. As they say, a pro can spot another pro. And if you're pretending to be an expert with photo shoots and other things, and you're not, you can get called out on it by actual experts. And it's a long way to fall when that happens. I strongly caution yourself against saying, I'm the expert. Let other people say that about you. And that usually happens through things like collaborative projects, endorsements, or recommendations from other experts, or when other experts reference your work. And here's the test. Thought leaders usually have other experts who are peers or others who are not yet as far along as they are, and they're influencing those people. They're leading those people. But the first step is to gain knowledge, expertise, and, quote, thoughts that are worth sharing. Number 2, thought leaders publish their writing. Not everybody, but it's hard to think of a thought leader or an opinion leader these days unless you hear about those thoughts and opinions through their writing. That's how they get them out there. thought leaders don't operate in secret. There's the work itself, and that's part of the job. But the other part of the job for the thought leader is to communicate that work so others can learn from it and the ideas can spread. And writing is one of the dominant ways that thought leaders share their ideas. And you can do some of these too. We'll take these forms of writing from easiest to most difficult in terms of getting the ideas out there. One way is a newsletter or blog. You can publish these through your own email list, on your own website, or nowadays even through LinkedIn's newsletter feature, which I think is a great way to go because on LinkedIn, you already have an almost built-in audience for that newsletter. Next, you have articles in online magazines or in print. There's an online magazine in every niche imaginable, and most of them have a way for experts in that niche to submit their writing. They each have their own norms and policies, but let's say you submit an article that's 700 to 1,000 words on an area that you know a lot about. They may agree to publish that, and that's one great way to get your ideas out there in front of their readers. Now, if you have a newsletter, you can just write an email and click send. In contrast, online magazines and other outlets have editors that make decisions about whether or not they're going to publish your work. Some of these online magazines are really easy to get into, but others are extremely competitive. Next, thought leaders also publish their research as peer-reviewed or high-level invited articles. Virtually every industry has some form of peer-reviewed publications. The traditional example would be an academic or industry journal article. Some organizations or institutions have their own version of invited or peer-reviewed articles as well. And what separates this kind of writing from, let's say, online magazines is that research articles typically have some kind of new data or original research in them that the authors have collected, analyzed, and/or distilled. And the most challenging way to write is to publish books. Writing a book is a marathon. Books are usually filled with bigger, more developed ideas compared to the other types of writing that we're mentioning. In terms of thought leaders, this could be a self-published book as long as it's a high-quality book. There are lots of reasons nowadays to self-publish, and it can add to your credibility as a go-to expert. And it's easier than ever to publish your own book, but that's also part of the problem with self-published books. The level of quality varies greatly. I've read some self-published books that are as good or better than books from major publishers. But I've also read some self-published books that look like they were made in about a half an hour. So even in the 2020s, publishing a book with an established publisher is still one of the most traditional and reliable ways to establish yourself as an expert. Third, thought leaders speak. Another excellent way to get your ideas out there is through speaking. This could be doing public speaking in person in front of a live audience. You could speak at a conference, a symposium, a debate. You could speak to other experts or to clients. This does not need to be paid speaking either. You could just be a guest speaker or a lecturer or an invited speaker. Getting paid is always really nice, but compensation is not what determines how effective you are at communicating your ideas to lots of people. Or you could also speak on free videos, in paid online classes, in webinars, or Zoom calls to groups. The Khan Academy is a great example of using video to become a thought leader. Sal Khan founded his educational site by using straightforward videos that were mostly just screen capture and him using a stylus pen writing over it. But he's teaching and speaking on those videos. He's become a well-known thought leader in the area of online education. That's his niche. Lots of YouTubers speak mainly on video and have become thought leaders in their niche. You could also speak on podcasts, could be your own or somebody else's podcast. In many ways, speaking and writing are very similar in terms of getting your ideas out there. And like writing, your speaking can be self-published, like this video right here. Just put it out there on the internet for all to see. Or you could look for more prestigious but difficult to find opportunities to speak, like in front of large audiences on stages. Number 4, thought leaders show results and make an impact. As one of the definitions we started with said at the beginning, thought leaders turn their ideas into reality. Depending upon your niche, for example, you might get and show results and create an impact for clients. I've been watching a YouTube channel lately called The Knees Over Toes Guy. The short story is that the guy making videos used to have really bad knee problems, and he stopped participating in basketball and other sports. But with a new approach to strengthening his legs and his knees, he's now incredibly athletic again with no knee pain. He's clearly getting the results for himself, but he's also now getting the same results for his clients. He is making a real-world impact with what he knows. He's definitely a thought leader, whether he intended to be or not. He's making athletes and personal trainers, and other experts really look at this knee pain issue again in a whole new light. We mentioned research results earlier, but we'll talk about it again depending upon your niche. That's what they call the bottom line outcome of a research study. They call it results. For example, McKinsey & Company, who's perhaps the world's most prestigious consulting firm, shows the results of their surveys, analyses of data trends, and other results about topics like AI, global trade, energy industry, and many other areas. This is a company, obviously not a person, an individual, but as a consulting firm, it's a thought-leading company. And I know many individuals who put out the results and make an impact in the same way at a scaled-down level. Other people in the industry then read those research results, and it informs their decision-making. Number 5, thought leaders build a platform. Now, I may not have talked about the concept of platform if we were having this conversation, say, 10 years ago, but nowadays, thought leaders typically have a platform. Now, back in the olden times, the go-to experts might have been interviewed in the media or interviewed on a stage in front of cameras or a big crowd. We had what you might call the mass media. And really, if you weren't visible in the public like that back then you didn't have a lot of options to create your own platform. You had to depend upon others. Today, the concept of a personal platform is more relevant than ever. A short definition of platform is your personal ability to reach and influence followers. You'll hear this term in the world of book publishing a lot. And as far as publishers are concerned, for authors, a platform is your ability to reach people who will ultimately buy your books. That's what publishers want. Platforms now take all shapes and sizes depending upon your personal expertise. You might have 100,000 people who subscribe to your newsletter. You might have 10,000 weekly streams of your podcast. In one way or another, to be a thought leader today, you must have followers of some sort. It's just like actual leadership if you think about it. You might consider yourself a leader, but if nobody's following you, then you're not a leader yet. By definition, a thought leader has to have followers. Good ideas alone aren't going to do it. Your ability to reach followers directly, your platform, is not an end unto itself, however. It's not about your fame, for example. Mere popularity can often fool people into thinking that they're a real expert, a pro. But your platform is just your way, your channel through which you can more easily distribute your ideas in the form of writing, speaking, and the evidence and results that you achieve. Your platform is the way you position yourself and your knowledge as a brand. I usually don't like the word personal brand, but it fits here. And here's the point in the 2020s. If you want to be a thought leader, you have to put as much work or more work into reaching people and promoting your work as you put into the work itself in the first place. And there's no easy path to creating a big platform. Creating a large platform and ultimately a brand requires an entirely different skill set than developing your original expertise. There's a lot of good people with good ideas, but the sad truth today is that getting the message out there is more important than ever. That's the world we live in now. So this probably sounds more challenging by the second to you. But like I said at the beginning, I'm going to distill what we've talked about into the easiest first steps that almost anybody can take. You don't have to do all of these, just start somewhere. First, when it comes to expertise, learn as much as you can about your niche, your specialized subject, market, or field. Maybe you could do this in school, but also you can start right now through self-study by reading the best books, taking free classes, and getting into research reports in your area. Second, for writing, consider starting a monthly newsletter or blog. It's almost free to build a website and start an email list. You can make it your goal to write one article per month or even one per quarter. Just start somewhere. And by the way, make sure people opt in for your newsletter. Don't just put people on that list without their permission. Third, for speaking, as you learn more helpful information, start speaking publicly. Volunteer to speak inside your own organization. Offer to do a training session, for example. Contact maybe your local chamber of commerce or other service organizations in your town or city. They always need free speakers. If stand-up speaking isn't your thing, make some videos. You can create a YouTube channel in a matter of minutes and upload your first video. It's going to take longer than that to polish it and make it look professional, but you have to start somewhere. Make improvements as you go along. Fourth, for impact, make sure you package your expertise in a way that makes a real difference. It can't be just theory. Focus on using what you know to solve real problems. Offer to help some people for free at first, if that's what it takes. And fifth, build a platform. I am a huge fan of LinkedIn, if you can't tell. Feel free to connect with me there, by the way. And you can do a lot of what we've already talked about just on LinkedIn alone, from connecting with a community of like-minded professionals, putting out helpful posts, publishing a newsletter. They have that option. You can now even post videos of up to 10 minutes. So here's a summary of the 5 similarities or qualities that thought leaders have. I realize it may look intimidating, but everybody starts small, and so can you. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Be sure to check out my Communication Coach Academy. There's plenty of free resources there, as well as classes and group coaching options. Till next time, thanks, God bless, and I will see you soon.